Right there.
For the people online, is the audio okay?
Hello, this is Alex Zimmerman. Yes, the audio is okay. We're good.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, turn up into the cell.
They actually said not to report, so.
Yes,
I'll do it again.
Awesome.
Continue.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, we went over some different, that means everything, sure. Right. Yeah. Somebody's on the fence.
Reach out, right? She may not be able to connect.
There's only a way.
She's coming to the meeting? I thought she was in Dallas.
I thought she was gonna connect online. Yeah, through the airport.
So it's do secondary.
Hopefully something.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, let me know. Yeah, please make sure.
Yeah, we'll send out an invitation.
Okay. Good.
But she's on.
Does she say she was?
Unmute.
Oh, yeah, maybe that phone number. 22590. Oh, there's two phone numbers. This one.
And Amy's gonna do audio only. She won't be able to respond to this because she can't verbally, but she can hear us. So Dennis, you're all in, brother.
So it's all on me, I guess. Okay, good afternoon. It is 1:05 PM. And I'd like to call the Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 meeting of the Tucson-Pima County Outdoor Lighting Code Committee to order. Have a roll call, please.
Amy Oliver. Is present online. Dennis Kuhn,
Here.
Craig Barron,
Here,
Robert East,
here.
Buell Januzzi, Daniel Sleater,
Here.
Alex Zimmerman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I'd like to move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is approval of minutes legal action report from July 1st, 2026 meeting.
Make your motion to approve the minutes. We need to go over it.
Yeah, we have a motion by Craig Barron. We need a second.
Second.
A second from Daniel Slater. Is there any discussion? Hearing one, could we have all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? None opposed, motion passes unanimously. So I'd like to move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is a meeting format announcement. But I don't know what that's supposed to be, so I don't know if that was something that Clayton and Dan wanted to say. Or...
This is Clayton with the city of Tucson. Just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that there has been a slight shift as to the meeting formats. Any comments received from the public would be acknowledged but cannot be discussed in accordance with Arizona open meeting law. Any discussion items need to be on the agenda. So if we do receive comments from the audience, just please anticipate that there would not, that would not initiate a discussion.
Thank you. Let's go on to item 4 on the agenda, which is call from the audience. At this time, anybody who would like to address the committee can do so. And, raise their hands or otherwise let us know that that's something you want to talk to us about online as well. Have anyone online?
It doesn't look like it, no.
Okay, and we don't have anybody in the room, so I think we're going to close the call to the audience. And we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is the subcommittee report. We're going to have Amy. She can't talk to. So I'll go ahead and run through this outline quickly. But this was distributed to all members of the committees, so I really would just be looking for input. We met on July 8th, and the principal function of that was to hear a report from Priscilla Stormstein Ventures about the possibility of a master lighting plan. We also discussed lumen caps and the tables. We met again on July 14th and went through a number of technical provisions in the code. And then on July 28th, we met again and we established a list of items that we feel that we want at the subcommittee to take ultimately. And we're going to address those in the next agenda item. Really, that's what we have done in the subcommittee. We made quite a bit of progress, especially on July 28th meeting. Questions from committee members?
I just have a comment in regards to, July 14th meeting. So the subcommittee identified the following areas of focus for the full committee. The full committee did not see, the drop and they were not able to attend the subcommittee meeting. So this paragraph was really designed for them to make comments that we were going to take a look at today and respond to today, or at least get their input. Any input, guys?
I had input on the exhibit that was sent out. I forget on what day that breaks this again. I thought that all this was
Yeah, we did review that.
part of this. So I commented on this. I did not comment on this
Okay.
July 14th. I thought that you guys were looking for.
Alex, online?
Yep, I'm online. Good afternoon, everybody. I don't have any comments on this. I've provided my comments like Rob used to saying to the other documentation that appears to line up with a lot of these items, these action items on here.
So I think where we've ended up is that then we met again on the 28th and we went over Alex and Daniels and Rob's response. And pretty thoroughly went through a lot of those, and that has resulted in the next item that was handed out to committee members, which is the meeting materials for committee discussions. That's items in our agenda. So unless we want to get more from a subcommittee report, I think we actually should move to item 6 of the agenda, and then we can start going through the recommendations of the subcommittee, and so we can get the full committee to buy in on suggested inclusion. With that being the case, let's move on to item 6, which is full committee discussion of the meeting materials. And so that's the colored, pulled out that has, items that we as the subcommittee wanted to put in front of the full committee, have discussion on items, and then, we should probably vote on them. To say that we want them to be included in the upcoming draft. So, I think we can go ahead and just start with that on the first page. First item was a review of residential versus commercial and how that would be broken down in the code. And where we essentially ended up with it is that we believe that we need to have that described in section 101.4 or chapter 2, the definitions. I don't feel that we as the subcommittee, though, decided which is the best place for it to go. There was arguments both ways. So I don't know if we have any other input from on that.
Rob, I like definitions, find somewhere where you're stuck typically code and go to definitions. Work your way back to where you're at. That would be my suggestion.
Have any other discussion on that point?
This is Alex Zimmerman. Per my responses in the form that you sent, I agree with the approach. Do you have anything specific you want to discuss or anything that you're still questioning?
Well, I think it's, should we say, should we put the definition into section 101.4 compliance with codes? That describes how the code is applied to residential. Maybe we actually both, the definitions would simply say that residential is as defined, or buildings and property that are governed by the International Residential Code, commercial, the IBC.
This is
Yeah,
Alex
you-
Zimmerman. I agree with that approach. I think both is better. I also like referring to other codes so we're not just regurgitating other code definitions as well. So I fully support that.
And Rocky, Craig Barron, did you understand, this is where we're at on this?
Yeah.
About this drawing, does that make sense to you now as far as the delineation?
Are we on that one now?
Yeah.
Are we on that one?
Well, we're still on just the residential versus commercial, definition.
Well, you're looking for 1.4, right? We're just on definition.
I'm still on the
Number one,
vote for including in the draft.
1 and 2.
It's just that our suggestion was to place either in 101.4 or in chapter 2. That's what the subcommittee ended up. We could refer that back to subcommittee again and let us in the subcommittee of the exact words. I just don't see exact words here. What do you think? Like, we're not really there with exact words. I don't think so.
This is Clayton. I believe what I've heard is the consensus would be to have the new language in both locations. I think it would be appropriate for the committee to vote on whether or not they want that language in both locations, most specifically the scoping provisions and the definitions, or just one or the other. I think that would be an appropriate thing for the committee to vote on. And then, the specific language could come back at the next meeting.
Okay, that being the case, this is Dennis. I will move that the subcommittee comes up with appropriate wording and we will put it into both locations. So 101.4 conforms with codes and chapter 2 definitions. And, the subcommittee will come up with the exact wording, as we move forward. So I'd be looking for a second on that. Do
Robbie, is a second.
we have any further discussion? Let's, have a verbal vote and all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I don't hear any opposed, so motion passes. Alec, did you oppose or did you, agree? I thought you agreed.
I agreed. Just a second late, sorry.
But hang on. I'm good now.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is light. Give me a minute. The next item is light trespass. And, there was a variety of suggestions. And we have suggested that, section 401.4 be revised to say all lights shall not unwanted, intrusive, artificial light that extends beyond the property line of the site where the light source is installed, resulting in illumination of another property without permission. Light fixtures near property lines shall be installed in accordance with sections. And there's a typo here that in the written document, it says 401.1.1. It should say 401.4.1 to 401.4.4 to limit light trespass. So the subcommittee, what ended up getting typed here was that we wanted to include that in the draft as the first sentence of the basic paragraph of 401.4. I personally am not in favor of that, but I'd like to hear any discussion before I'll give my discussion on that.
Dennis, you're not in favor of what, I'm sorry?
What's in the sort of pink color in the handout where it says all lights shall not provide unwanted, intrusive, artificial light, that whole paragraph. I think that paragraph is unenforceable. It's a nice idea, but you know, anybody anywhere could say, I don't like that light.
Yeah, I think it's right here.
And so I actually think that that's not what we should have in 401.4. And I was a little surprised to actually see this typed up this way. I didn't think we, well, with that subcommittee, but that may be on me. My suggestion would be that the first sentence should say, this section contains provisions that will reduce intrusive artificial light that extends beyond the property line of the site where the light source is installed. And then it would continue with the second sentence says light fixtures near property lines shall be installed in accordance with sections 401.4.1 to 401.4.4 to limit light trespass. So what that would do differently is say that 401.4 has provisions to reduce light trespass. And those are in the sub paragraphs, the 0.1 through 0.4 sub paragraphs. But I don't think we should have a general statement that says all lights shall not produce unwanted, intrusive, artificial light that extends beyond the property line. That's unenforceable and it's almost undescribable. I'm sure there's somebody that doesn't want those lights.
This is Alex Zimmerman. Yeah, when I read this, I had the same confusion of, okay, that's a fine statement, but are we saying that there is no light trespassing, right? No foot candles beyond the property line? Like, what is that statement really? How is that being enforced? And to follow that, am I meeting said code if I meet sections 401.4.1 to 401.4.4? So I think cleaning it up, as Dennis has stated, will make it more clear on what's required to limit light trespass.
So I wish I had Amy available to add to this, but we don't have her at this point. I think that we should either go back to the subcommittee with this item and then we'll come back with something that all of us endorse. Or we could take a vote now to take the words that I say. But I need a motion from someone to do that. Otherwise, I would say we send back to subcommittee.
I say we send it back to, now that you've highlighted this, I saw where you're going, Dennis. I had some confusion on some of the other sections. How it will be limited, and I think it's just a lot of words. It's not important.
Thank you. I'm gonna write that we're gonna take this one back to subcommittee.
You can't get off there, Alan. It's closed. It's closed.
Hey,
You have to
Rick,
pee again?
we can't take any comments, right? That's part of what Leslie was talking about.
Yeah, we can't take comments.
Yeah.
Audience, I'm sorry.
It sounded like it was a comment that was not supposed to be made and somebody was off of mute.
Yeah, that was another comment that was from online. There's one in the room also. Anyhow, let's move on to the next item, which is,
Dennis, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Amy, because she can't speak, she texted, she said if we don't want it as it is, then we need to, vote not to accept it. Yeah, not to accept it as written.
Okay, then
My motion, not to accept as written.
second. And we have a motion and second. Any discussion? Let's have a verbal vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unopposed? That motion passed. It will go back to subcommittee. Okay, the next item that subcommittee is referring to the full committee is section 401.4.1. So it's a subparagraph, and this is directly relating to the light trespass. And it's about the mounting height. And there was questions about how does the statement of requiring lighting that is at the property line that's abutting residential property to be installed not higher than 10 feet to then rise at an angle of 20 degrees. And how can we clarify that and make that work? So we had a good discussion in the subcommittee about that. And what the handout is providing is first a demonstration of what the allowable mounting heights would be with the 20. The drawing isn't quite right because the red line, the dashed line would be this is the first diagram. The dashed line would be the 20 degrees above horizontal, but the red line should have been drawn completely horizontal. It's sloped up a little bit, but it was intended to be straight across and horizontal. So result of applying the trigonometry is that when you're 20 feet away from the property line, some pole would be able to be just over 17 feet tall. If you were 40 feet away, it would be able to be 24.5 feet tall and higher as you get to the other dimensions. And And Craig brought up in the subcommittee. What that actually does, particularly with LED lights, is that we're gonna still get an impact from those lights on the abutting residential property. So, we reevaluated it, and subcommittee, we felt that going to, a 10-degree angle is more appropriate for this particular condition. It will result in lower mounting heights, when we're adjacent to residential lot lines, from other properties. And that will result in a prescriptive method that will reduce the light trespass onto those properties, and it'll do it in a better way.
Robbie, I think that'd be better defined as, you can actually see a height, nine height in code.
Yeah, and the plan is that we'll clean up the diagram, and that will be included in the code as an example of, obviously, the diagram would have to either be interpolated, or you just do the trigonometry and come up with the exact amount of height that would be allowable if you were at any other distance away from the property line. So,
So you're saying if you're 52 feet away, you would do the math?
yeah. It's
I
basically,
think this is a good scale that you can figure out how high you could go. I would nix the 0.1176 feet.
yeah,
If the decimals at the end.
so you think we could have fewer decimal points?
For sure, absolutely.
So the Rob, you had a question that went along prior to this, which was, can we define the amount of light via foot candles or something? And
Yes, that's back to kind of why we mix this conversation up here is,
right,
what is it? You know, if you have 100-foot candles, yeah, I'm sure somebody's gonna complain about it. If you got 2-foot candles, nobody should complain about it.
yeah.
Where's that happy medium at? And it's,
So I think we need to have a little bit of discussion on that point though, because if we start going to requiring foot candle levels, that would mean that we would require photometry to be run. And I think, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of us on the subcommittee are of the opinion that that is too much to ask for, especially on the smaller projects.
so I think this would come up as a code issue. Something would come out from the city or the county and to verify light trespass. Does Dan or Clayton, you know, if the code inspectors that do review light issues, do they have, what's the gizmo function? Photometer?
Oh, you're saying the light meter? Yeah.
Yeah, do your inspectors have one?
This is the city, this is Clayton with the city. Our staff are not equipped with light meters for all enforcement agents, but we do have other means to verify general compliance. If there is a movement towards a need to measure foot candles, then the city would consider the potential of equipping staff with the necessary equipment. But at current time, there is nothing to measure for that requirement to have the equipment.
Not the approximate cost of one of those. Then
A couple $100. This is Alec. I have one.
So the problem isn't the meter side. The problem is the design side. Because if we put a foot candle limit in the code, then every single designer will need to calculate, that is, provide a photometric study for every single light installation, make sure that it complies with those limits. And that puts a big burden on small projects. And it'll encourage people to not get permits because of the cost.
but I agree.
And so what we've been trying to do in prior code issues, and what the subcommittee is pushing, is to have the prescriptive rules. That's why we have a limit on mounting height. That's why we've also got house side shields. And we have requirements that within a certain distance, all the lighting be fully shielded, allowing unshielded light. So all of those things are prescriptive methods that the inspectors can go out and they can, just by looking at the installation and doing measurements and such, and same token on like plan reviewers can do the same thing. They can see how the lights are specified for the heights and the type of lights and everything, and do it without having to run the photometry. Because the problem with photometry is there's just a certain, you have to input to the program. It takes a certain amount of effort to do that. And that effort's easy on a bigger project where you have other reasons you may want to do the photometry. But when you get the small jobs, it could be a $500 or $1,000 hit for somebody to install one light fixture on the project to get an engineer to run that photometry. That's why we don't want to do it. I just want to get that on the record.
This is
Dennis?
Alex Zimmerman. I think my other thing to add to that, Dennis, is we either do everything by foot candles or everything by lumens, right? Our lumen tables, everything are not based on foot candle value. So I don't want to pick and choose when we use foot candles versus when we don't, right?
Understood? It would be one more level of complication.
Yeah, this is Dan. I was just going to comment that like the city, the county right now does not have any light meters or utilize them at this time.
Yeah, and there's no current requirement to do so.
No.
Like,
And then I would also want to support the committee's recent statement that, requiring engineering, especially on residential projects, could create a level of regulation that is not as feasible to enforce. So we would discourage the concept of anything that would require engineering on residential projects.
County feels the same way.
so, the important thing is to know that we have these prescriptive rules that we believe do address light trespass, but it may not be perfect. I mean, we're not saying we would eliminate all lighting, but even if we had foot candles, it wouldn't necessarily limit all lighting. So, that's why we think it's in the appropriate place. So I don't know if, I think we didn't say in the handout that we would call for a motion, but Amy's suggesting that we could ask for both the full committee that we see it in this way, and I'd be looking for a motion to do so.
Yeah, I think before we do that, can we discuss this 20-foot versus 10-foot change?
Alec, did you mean 20 degrees versus?
Or
10
sorry,
degrees?
yes, 20 degrees, excuse me, correct.
Absolutely. What would you like to say?
So I'm concerned about going from 20 degrees to 10 degrees. I understand the logic about the 3.5 times the pole height. But traditionally in design, your pole spacing is about 2 times what your pole height is. So, with the 10-degree requirement, right, you have to be 60 feet away from a residential section to have a 20-foot pole, right? Standard parking lots, you're between 20 and 30-foot pole. The higher your pole is, the more throw you can have, right? Less light poles. So by doing so, right, what this is doing is, say I have a parking lot that's 80 feet wide. I can't have any 20-foot poles anywhere within that parking lot. So I would be opposed to moving from 20 degrees to 10 degrees. I would maybe recommend adding more requirements on house side shields as we get, kind of similar to something like this, but not necessarily pole heights. I think the way the 20 degrees is set up now is a clean, simple approach that helps light trespassing, but also does not require additional poles at lower heights that has significant cost to construction projects, right? We're talking $10,000 to $15,000 per pole that you put in on a project.
Greg Van Wyck, at that 40-foot distance from the property line, the pole height would be a little over 24 feet. Not 60 feet, would be a little over 31 feet away from the property line. But if you have
That's
your
the-
80-foot.
That's the 20 degree.
Yeah, that would be with 20 degrees.
We not do
So-
that calculation with 10 degree?
It's next page.
So for
This-
10 degree, 40 feet is 17 foot, 40 feet away is 17-foot pole heights, and 60 feet is 20-foot pole heights. So that drastically lowers your pole heights, and it does affect design. My opinion on this is that the minimal amount of light trespassing that's occurring, you're adding substantial cost of the construction requirements.
Yeah, this is Dennis. Let me just offer on that one thing I've noticed with the LED products, which are pretty common now and what everybody's using, is that they have, when you look at where the maximum candle power is, oftentimes it's going up about 72 degrees from vertical. And they're doing that so that you can actually light a larger area from lower mounting heights compared to the old HID sources. So I think that actually is a change from the older way that lighting was done. And that by itself allows lower mounting heights with the LEDs compared to the former HID sources without losing too much uniformity. But what it also means though, is if you get your eye below that 72 degree line, you're in the flash zone, the glare zone from that light fixture. And I believe that the 20 degree angle actually lets the height of those lights rise too quickly and could result in objectionable flash to residential properties that are off-site. And so I think that angle, and that's carryover from the 2012 code. And at that time, all the thinking was based on using HID sources. We did not consider the LED sources, which is evident just by reading the code. The technology is different now, and I actually think the lower mounting heights are more appropriate. Now, maybe there's a compromise between 10 degrees and 20 degrees that we could consider. I don't know if it'd be worth doing any modeling to see how well you could actually light a parking lot with these lower mounting heights, or conversely, how much glare we're going to get from the higher mounting heights. And I can try to do a little bit of that modeling, that then we can look at the subcommittee. So,
Yeah, this is
I
Alex
believe-
Ingerman. I was going to recommend the same thing, is maybe have our lighting consultant run some photometrics of parking lots, right? Because I think what the 10 degrees is doing is putting a financial strain on smaller parking lots.
One of the things and it's just a sense I've got though, is when we get feedback from the general public, is that light trespass is a big concern. So I'm hoping we can be proactive to do something that will help with light trespass issues and be able to do it in a way that we can do it prescriptively rather than requiring foot candle levels or something of that nature, because that's gonna put a different kind of burden on projects.
Yeah, and I guess that was my comment before is can we use house side shields? Can we maybe change that requirement to meet in the middle a bit on that? Just thought.
Yeah, so we've already got a requirement for house side shields up to 25 feet away from the property line. So, perhaps they could be required further, but then that would have the effect of reducing the illumination from a pole that was inside the property line in the direction toward the property. So I think that, not sure that's gonna help any.
Yeah, and another comment, Dennis, is maybe we look at 15 degrees because probably at 40 feet, 15 degrees would get you to a 20-foot pole.
Yeah, it's certainly what I mean, we're at 17 to 10 degrees. I think.
Yeah, we're at 17 and the other one is 24. So I would think if, it may be a compromise to get to 15 so that smaller parking lots that aren't that wide or long, even 40 feet away, they could have a 20-foot pole to meet that requirement.
Yeah, like I believe that, Clayton, our consultant, we're done with the consultant now, is that true?
Yes,
So it would require one of our electrical engineers here in Tucson that have lighting programs to throw some fixtures on a site to see what it looks like.
Understood.
Anybody volunteer?
RC Lurie does them all the time for, my project. Alex, who do you usually work with? You do them, or do you have the lighting?
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely work with Arcillary.
One of you guys wanted to call Duffner and see if he'd be willing to do that for us.
Josh, can you send Duffner an email, CC me, please?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yep. Sounds good.
We have an open motion. Forget,
not on this.
not on this one.
Motion to table it, get some input from,
I think let's have a motion that we refer back to subcommittee and we'll be looking for the data from that lighting analysis.
I motion to table it, send it back to the subcommittee.
Second. Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Give me that, please. Yes. Okay, let's move on. Subcommittee is proposing that the definition of light trespass be added to chapter 2 definitions. That is, light trespass, unwanted or intrusive artificial light that extends beyond the property line of the site where the light source is installed, resulting in illumination of another property without permission. So, looking for a vote of the full committee to include that in as a definition. That by itself, being a definition, would not be a code requirement. It's simply stating what light trespass is. I'd like to make that motion.
Make that motion.
Daniel made the motion. Second.
I'll second it.
Do we have any discussion?
Just back to, one person's thoughts on intrusive. 1 foot candle. Tenth of a foot candle. Where is it at? And it sounds great when you read it. It's intrusive, define intrusive, keeps you up all night, it blinds you, or it's a spec. What is it? How would you guys, Dan and Clayton, how would, somebody in the field get codified light trespass?
This is Clayton with the city. Oftentimes, our staff are seeking to identify if the light casts a shadow at the property line. So if the light can cast a shadow at the property line, it is almost unanimously considered trespass because it's bright enough to cast a shadow. If it's not casting a shadow, then it's just a light in the distance.
Is there a factor of full moon or? You know,
This is Alex Zimmerman. I was doing some research, and IES, Illuminating Engineering Society, which is the standard that we live by for lighting levels, has a light trespass definition. And maybe we start with that. Would you like me to share that definition?
Yes.
All right. The encroachment of light typically across property boundaries causing annoyance, loss of privacy, or other nuisance.
Just mute yourself, Alex.
I think he locked up.
Did you hear me?
Now,
Not all of it.
The encroachment of light typically across property boundaries causing annoyance, loss of privacy, and other nuisance.
that's the full definition of light trespass.
It's the full definition. I'll put it in the chat as well.
You'll see some combination of what IES recommends, and if we have anything we can add to it, get back to committee there.
So we have an open motion, which was to accept this language of light trespass. We've got discussion now saying that maybe we shouldn't. So with the motion open, do we want to take a vote or do we want to withdraw the motion or alter the motion?
I withdraw. We reconsider the other definition. I think without permission, that's kind of the point that we're stuck. Yeah, you aren't gonna get permission.
Yeah, and I think, my comment to add on that before we move forward is I feel like this is tied to 401.4, that these decisions should be made together. And we're already going back to the subcommittee on the other items. So both of these feel like they're decisions that need to be made together.
Okay, I think I heard a motion from Daniel to do just that.
Yes.
Okay. we would need a
Second that motion.
We got a second from Alan. Any further discussion on that one? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? That motion passes, so we're gonna refer to subcommittee. You go to plate.
This is Clayton. I just want to make sure that we're not skipping an item. Looks like the fully shielded item within 25 feet of residential lot lines. I'm not sure if we had resolution on that.
Oh, I think you're right. You're right. We'll go back to that. We can just make a note here. Okay. We're gonna go back to 401.3. That's a prescriptive requirement intended to address light trespass. And it says that fixtures within 25 feet of residential lot lines, luminaires installed within 25 feet of abutting residential property shall be fully shielded. And so we'd like to have the full committee endorse that, take a motion to that effect. This is Dennis. I will move to the full committee to accept that.
I second it.
Do we have any further discussion? Don't hear any. Can we have a vote? All those in favor? Aye. Do
Aye.
we have any? Opposed? Don't hear any opposed, so that motion carried. Okay, the next that we want to go through is festoon lighting. So the subcommittee is looking at including both in a new section 401.8 discussion festoon lighting, and then adding the definition of festoon lighting into chapter 2 definition. And what's in the handout is saying that we have the new section 401.8 festoon lighting, and festoon lighting shall contribute to total lumens. And then each bulb shall be counted as an individual luminaire, and unless each lamp is wholly shielded, festoon lighting shall be counted as unshielded towards the lumen cap. That's what came out of subcommittee. We also have the definition of festoon lighting that says a string of light bulbs or globes suspended on a cable or wire between two or more points, such as poles or buildings, creating a decorative and atmospheric illumination. And there were some comments on that previously from Alec. It said, how does this relate to the definition of luminaire with regards to 2 or more luminaires installed less than 3 feet apart, considered a single luminaire? And the subcommittee says this is a bit of overcomplication. We've addressed this by adding regulatory language. And there was also a comment from Alec saying where else in the code is the term festoon lighting introduced, and there are no references. And so subcommittee's response is this was not addressed in the 2012 code. It needs to be addressed, which is why it is a proposed addition. And Robbie suggested adding language that festoon lights with hats are considered fully shielded. And so, believe we've done that, in the proposals for the 401.8 and the chapter 2 definition. So,
Robbie, Alex, I'm not, can you explain your question you had about the lights being X amount of feet apart and considered, where were you going with that? I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, Dennis is probably the best to explain that, but in the definition of luminaire is if 2 luminaires are installed within 3 feet of each other, they're treated as 1 luminaire. So where that becomes an issue is for unshielded light fixtures that can only be 3,000 lumens. A string of holiday lights or a string of festoon lights would likely be over the 3,000 lumens and automatically be not allowed, cannot be installed because they're unshielded and over the lumen count. That Dennis, is that kind of paraphrasing the situation?
I would say that's exactly right.
So.
And that would, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. And so my comment is this festoon definition readdressing that requirement that's in the 2012 code? And what the subcommittee responded is they're addressing it via changing and adding the regulatory language. So my thought was I was just going to re-review that when the new code comes out for review.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do now is just get the full committee to go along with the subcommittee's recommendation.
Yeah,
I-
so sorry, Dennis. Sorry, Dennis, after you.
Okay, I looked at these new words again, seeing them written down as opposed to just being discussed in subcommittee. And I actually think there's some very minor problems with them. Under 401.8 festoon lighting, where it goes into the pink or red color, I guess it's pink color. It starts out saying each bulb. Well, the term bulb is not really a good technical term, and it's not really addressed in the code. But the code definitions talk about lamp, and I think the word bulb should be changed to lamp. So it says each lamp shall be counted as an individual luminaire. I also think this sentence structure might be better if we put a period after luminaire, struck the word and started a new sentence with a capital U and unless. So that it's two sentences instead of one, and it would read each lamp shall be counted as an individual luminaire period, new sentence, unless each lamp is fully shielded. Festoon lighting shall be counted as unshielded towards the lumen cap. I also believe that in the definition, where it says a string of light bulbs, it should instead say a string of lamps or globe suspended on a cable or wire between two or more points, such as poles or buildings creating, then there's the letter A in there. I think it reads better if the letter A would not be in the sentence. It should just say creating decorative and atmospheric illumination. So I would recommend that we make those typo revisions and changing the bulb to lamp in both cases. That would, I think, be better code. I think we could do that now by accepting this and saying the committee accepts this, or we could refer back to subcommittee if people aren't comfortable with that. So I'd be looking for a motion.
A motion to accept.
Second. Okay, second. Any more discussion?
I have discussion on festoon lighting, but not this specific thing, this specific item on the rewording.
I guess my motion was, or the motion was intended to adopt the new language, which means that it would go forth into the draft. So if it's too soon to do that, then
Yeah, I guess
why
there's
don't
just
you
two comments that I want to make, right? And so first, Rob East, with your comment about hats, right? There's language that's been added for fully shielded, right? I just wanted to be clear that not all hats will fully shield festoon lighting. And those are actually difficult to find. So just kind of an educational piece on that one. The second one is if we're introducing this definition of festoon lighting, what is the purpose? Where is this being used in the code? Or is this just being used as a definition saying that this specific light fixture is counted in the outdoor lighting lumen calcs? Because to me, it seems kind of like a moot point. Any light fixture that's installed is counted to the lumen calc numbers, right?
this is Dennis. I agree with that in principle, but in practice, I have many people that will ask me about application of the code and try to get me to say, well, festoon lighting isn't really permanent lighting. It doesn't really have to be counted. And, it's temporary lighting. It's all these other things because they're looking for a way to install it and not have to count the lighting. And because it goes beyond just counting lumens, if it's unshielded, it would also have a curfew applied to it. So, it's obvious that people want to use this stuff. It's going in all over the place. And the trouble is, it's going in now where it's not on people's plans. It's not there when the building gets a C of O, and then it just shows up after the fact. And I think subcommittee feels that by putting it in the definition and actually have a section in the chapter 4 where it's addressing lumen counts and specifically address the item, it makes the point that it has to be considered outdoor lighting. The point that isn't being made in the present code. And that's kind of evidenced by the fact that there's so much festoon lighting that's going in all over the place that really is unregulated lighting and uncontrolled lighting.
Understood. And I agree with you. I get asked the same amount. This is probably the hottest topic in the outdoor lighting code for commercial and residential applications.
Alex, you mentioned that the hats were not available where they were fully shielded. Is that what I heard you say?
What I'm saying is it is difficult to find fully shielded festoon lighting. It's out there for sure, but it's hard to find. So I just want to make sure I know what question you're asking. I just want to make sure that you understand that it was addressed by just adding the term fully shielded, right? And it's not, if you just have a hat on it, it's not unshielded anymore, if that makes sense.
So, I like this sort of lighting, and Dennis, I think it's added after the fact a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on the plans and then somebody's like, oh, I would like this out there, so it gets added. Some people may intentionally not show it, but I think it's just something that's added to provide, a space with pizzazz.
But there are ways to add it and be code compliant. And I've done multiple projects that I've actually shown the festoon lighting on my plans. They've gone through plan check, they've been inspected, and they're legal. As long as people will keep that timer set to be on the curfew, because I'm counting them as unshielded lumen. You actually look at the lumen rating per lamp, it's pretty low. So the strings can even be fairly long and not be over 3,000 each string. So it's legal to use them as unshielded in that method. And then what you have to do is be under your unshielded lumen cap and have them on a timer that will allow them to be turned off at the curfew, which is generally 11 p.m. shielded lighting. And I think used that way, it's a legitimate lighting tactic and yeah, a lot of people like it, but it's really wildcat right now too. I mean, they're going in with just no control whatsoever. This is, like you say, it goes on after the fact.
Because it can be plugged into a standard receptacle, right? That's the real issue. It's very easy to add.
This is Clayton. I'm hearing that there's a need to include festoon lighting for clarity so that the public is aware that this lighting is subject to the code. And in that vein, you might also consider adding language to whatever festoon language you include to refer to the curfew so that it is also abundantly clear to the public.
Yeah, so in 401.8, we would need to add something to the effect of unshielded festoon lighting shall comply with the curfews in section 403, I think it is.
Unless it's being used during the seasonal time, right? Between Thanksgiving and whatever it is, November 15th and January 15th, right? Then it would be used as seasonal lighting.
Okay, so we've got an open motion to accept the wording, but we've had the discussion that we really need to change this. I kind of think we should go back to subcommittee to, so that we could just have a clean vote on the words next time.
Oh, the draft, right?
And, so I guess I need a motion for us to do that. Let's do this.
A motion to send direct to subcommittee.
Second. Okay, motion and second. Further discussion. Okay, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, our next thing is, we had in our previous discussion, there was a, drawing that was showing an unshielded light, a partially shielded light, and then a fully shielded light. And the drawing has been altered to have two different styles of light showing unshielded and one shown as fully shielded. And we'd like to have a vote to include these images as corrected in the draft. Motion from Daniel to do so.
Second.
Second from Alan. Any discussion? Don't hear any, so let's vote on it. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
There we go.
Motion
Now we're
passed.
cooking.
Don't jinx it, Alex.
In the previous subcommittee work that was sent out to the committee, we had a definition for CCT, correlated color temperature. And that accompanied that was a drawing that showed, that lists different Kelvin temperatures and a colored line that sort of reflects those colors. And there was comments that included adding quotation after the word white, and should the description of the CCP limit include 3500 K, and a request to make the green color a little more prominent in the printing of that color band. So all those things were incorporated in the words, and we'd like the full committee to endorse that. So we need a motion to accept what the subcommittee did with these. We have a motion from Daniel,
Second.
second from Alan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is, Next item is about section 403.1, exception 3. The current language is having an exception for unshielded lighting on installations classified as residential zoning. In accordance to footnote 2 of 401.2, that the accordance to footnote 2, 401.2 is just describing what residential zoning is. So that's really not the crux of it, but it's the fact that any unshielded lighting on residential zoning would not be subject to any curfew. That's the current language. The proposed language that the subcommittee is recommending is that we change section 3 to say unshielded light fixture, perhaps you say fixtures, plural, on residential buildings adjacent to main entry door. And there were some comments on an agreement from Alec, Rob saying not sure what this is for and what it means. And we can have some more discussion and explain that. Clayton. Clayton just had said to us that what it's doing is providing an exception to the curfew for the lights at the main entry door because it would help with security and facial recognition. It's some feedback from our consultant, Fisher Moran Stone, that they felt that in residential occupancies, there was a benefit to having some unshielded lighting to help with facial recognition. And of course, that lighting should be able to be operated anytime someone's like come to a door, just be limited by curfew. Our general discussion in the subcommittee, though, was that there's a lot of unshielded lighting being put in residential properties, and that that's a significant contributor to sky glow. Because it's oftentimes runs all night long, doesn't get turned off. So we made the proposal to say unshielded light fixtures on residential buildings adjacent to the main door would be the only lighting that would be exempt from the curfew.
What was in code previously?
Where it says right at the top where it says current language, or do you mean what's in the 2012 code?
Yeah, what is in the 2012?
Give me a second. That's the.
Oh, this is good.
That. Just have to know which one the draft. Okay, the 2012 code. Okay, the basic rule for curfew is, and this is in 2012, so unshielded lighting shall be extinguished between 10 p.m. and sunrise the following day. And then it has exception number 3, unshielded lighting on installations classified as residential zoning.
Said you didn't have to distinct or turn off an ignorant shielded light?
On residential zoning. It says residential.
Now the new, saying you can only have it on your front door.
That's right. It would have the effect that unshielded installations on residential would have to be.
What if you had a side entry, your main door, you use it, but you have a mother-in-law unit that she has her own door. What happens then? She can't have a light on the whole time?
This is Clayton with the city. I'd just like to offer two items. The first is this, there is currently an exemption in the code that exempts all unshielded light in residential zoning. I find two concerns with that. Number one, it's exempting all unshielded lights, not just light intended for facial recognition or, purposes identified by the subcommittee. And two, it's exempting residential zoning. not necessarily residential buildings. So I believe the term zoning in this exception is an inaccurate description of what the intent is, and recommend that it's focused on the buildings, not necessarily the zoning. And it's focused on the main entry door where there's most likely to be folks visiting. It's not to say that that main entry door faces the street. It just says main entry door. So there would be an allowable interpretation based on building use or, consumer choice.
If it was an ADU, that'd be a second building, so the ADU could have a main door and the main house could have a main door, I believe in the way this is written. However, if it was a single building that had like 2 units in it, well, each unit would have a main door. I don't know how you would interpret that, this wording, but I actually think you could interpret it as being okay for this wording because the main entry door.
That's correct. For the city purposes, we would consider each dwelling unit to have the main entry door.
As would the county.
On door, would you put main entry door of parentheses S, so it's door or doors of the main entries? I can see somebody saying it says door, it doesn't say doors.
This is Clayton with the city. I would suggest that there's only one main entry door on any occupancy. That's what makes it the main door. A secondary door would be a secondary door.
How about a different approach? What if we said unshielded light fixtures on dwelling units adjacent to main entry doors? Now, that might not work because then you could have a multifamily building, which would not be considered residential for this code. So you could have 100 units each one. Guess that doesn't work either.
You gotta define dwelling.
Well, we heard from both city and county that the present wording is easily interpreted to apply to each and every, well, so if there was, if it's under the residential code and our definition that we talked about earlier of what is residential and commercial means it's gonna be a 1 family, 2 family, 3 or 4, or like a 1 family with an ADU. Each of those buildings could have a main entry door. They will have a main entry door, and each of those would be allowed to be unshielded, meaning it could just be on a light switch instead of controlled.
This is Clayton. One other thought is that the current code currently exempts all unshielded light from the curfew requirements on residential wholesale properties, even though the word zoning is in the code. The intent here, I believe, of the subcommittee is to tighten down to create curfew requirements on residential. So even if the committee decided to exempt all unshielded lights at entry doors and remove the word main, it would still be a reduction over the current code language and therefore reduce potential sky glide.
Everyone's benefit, in many, we got feedback from our astronomy reps that the residential unshielded lighting is a significant addition to the sky glow. It's something that they noticed from the observatories, and that's why we've tightened this up as opposed to unregulating it. We also discussed the fact that a lot of this comes from things like landscape lighting and such, but my experience on it has been that virtually all landscape lighting kits that you buy come with little timers that they have things. So it's a matter of having words in the code to get those things. And turn those lights off. That's really the intent here, not have to require a lot of extra controls. You can always put in unshielded lighting if you want to design something in a way to run all night long.
You mean?
I mean, fully shielded
Yeah,
light.
so I'm good with it, because you can put a shielded light next to that, you know, the mother-in-law unit or whatever. So it's not like you can't have a light on throughout the night, it just needs to be shielded, so I'm good.
We're repeatedly told from the astronomy side that it's the unshielded lighting that is the absolute worst thing toward the sky glow. And so we need to try to move people away from putting in that type of light. That's why we're pushing for this. So this will have the effect of talking about buildings as opposed to zoning and limit the main entry door. Okay, so did we have a motion to accept it?
I do.
We did do a motion.
Motion to accept.
Second. Any further discussion? Let's vote on. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion passes. Okay, the next issue that we talked about in subcommittee that we want to bring to the full committee is the master lighting plan. That describes what that would be. And what we want to get from the full committee now is just the vote that we can proceed towards getting the exact words for the master lighting plan. And we probably need another vote to say that our intent is going to be to include a master lighting plan in the upcoming draft.
This is Alex Zimmerman. I think from a 10,000-foot view, I think it's a good idea to have a master lighting plan. I think what was provided to review is very dense and a bit difficult to interpret and walk through without some explanation. So again, I'm open to allowing the subcommittee to navigate some of those waters to see where we come, what is recommended at this point. But, the specifics in that master lighting plan document, I think we'd have to have further discussions on.
Yeah, I agree, and I sort of feel the same way.
I agree too, and Priscilla spent a lot of time putting all this together with some very valuable information for us that we really didn't recognize or understand before, so we need time to go through this again and make sure that we understand it fully and can adopt it.
Yeah, our attitude on the subcommittee is that we want to move forward and try to find a way to make this work, and get it into the code. And so, with that, we just want the full committee to tell us to keep at it. And, so I need a motion to that.
A motion to keep at it.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries and passes. And then we want to have a second vote that our goal here is to include this in
Hey, Dennis?
Yes, Dan.
Sorry, real quick. Amy, because she can't speak, she's asked, me to ask the committee that if they have specific questions, they need to submit them to Clayton or myself now so that we can consider them and give them to Priscilla. And, I know the intent at a future meeting is to have Priscilla go over the whole thing for the whole committee.
Thank you. Yeah, so everybody will need to, submit if you have questions, go ahead and get them submitted.
This is Alec. My only question was if we could get Priscilla to present her findings and documentation, which Dan stated that will be in a future meeting. I think any other questions I have would be following that presentation.
Okay, so I think I'm still looking for a motion that we would include the master lighting plan in upcoming draft. That's after we go through the subcommittee. Maybe that's premature. Either, but maybe wanted to have it pulled up.
Yeah, isn't what's the last motion was to consider this and to start drafting a proposal to include this, right?
Yeah. I'm personally, I'm not understanding why we're having two votes, but, I think the subcommittee needs to work on it some more to say, this is what we think it should be, then we would come to full committee. And so we've already had that one, we're gonna do that.
This is Clayton. I think there might be some confusion. I believe the second proposal was a presentation for a future meeting. And I believe that might fit well into agenda item 9 for future meeting topics.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that was set up for the new map to move all those islands of E2 into an E3 grouping.
Well, I don't think we're there yet.
yeah, I'm not understanding, where's the second vote? What is it?
That's what they're talking
Vote
about
to
right there.
proceed with generation of master lighting plan, which we did, so we'll proceed. Second vote to include master lighting plan in upcoming draft 2026.
Which you talked about the modification of E3 putting in the islands.
But that's really not part of master lighting plan.
Yeah, that's at the end of the next deal, Craig.
That's the next issue. Is, looking at this now. I'm just not seeing what our second vote is gonna do.
This is Dan. I think what was being asked is the first vote is to proceed with the generation of the master lighting plan with modifications. It's to proceed with it, and then the second vote is to vote to make sure we include it in the draft. Is the way I'm reading that. I don't know if Amy's texted, no, not yet. She hasn't texted.
Seeing how that we don't have any work from the subcommittee, I think it's premature to say that we as the whole committee are gonna say it's gonna go into the draft. I think we need
Yeah.
the subcommittee work first. I think our intentions are to get it in the draft, but I don't see why we're voting on it at this point. I'll still, I think that's a fair deal.
I mean, I think the more important thing is to just agree that we'll work on it to include in the draft at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the intention is we've got multiple subcommittees scheduled of August and into September. The goal being to get this thing wrapped up. So when we meet next in our early September meeting, that will be review subcommittee work. And at that point, we can keep moving forward. So I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion to do that second vote, but I'm not gonna make. I don't hear a motion, so we're gonna. And where we're moving on to is, modifications to the map. That's the, overall map that it's published on FEMA maps. Best place to find it as far as I know. And provides a graphical and visual explanation of where the lighting zones are that are described in chapter 3. So we've got the new map drawn, and then we have some new words that are described on there. On the next couple of pages.
Side by side, you can see clearly what page.
Sure, Bob, if you take
Oh, I
a
didn't-
look here, and there's this drawing here on these pages are numbered.
Perfect.
This shows the old one where it had these little
Yes.
stranded blue areas that are
Yeah.
that really don't benefit anybody.
I see it, Dennis, thank you. I didn't see this for some.
That's okay. So it makes a cleaner boundary between, between everything really.
So can I make a motion to allow this modification?
Was that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Anything? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
This is Clayton. I just want to clarify, was the motion to accept the new map?
Yes. And, well, the new map and the words that go with it, which would be the new 301.1. Is that true, Alec?
Yes, both the updated text and the new map.
Okay, that's the way I took it. Okay, so
It was my first motion. Sorry, guys.
that's okay. You're fine. Let's see, we have the motion, we have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Do we have any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Yes, we need to make a second vote to include this modification in the proposed 2026 draft. So we've accepted it, so I'd like a motion to include in the draft.
Motion to include.
From Daniel, second. Dennis, I'll second. Any further discussion? Let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, that was the completion of everything that the subcommittee wanted to put in front of the full committee. So that was, agenda item 6. I think we're concluded on that item. Item 7 is HOA explanation. And I don't know what was intended to be discussed on that. So I'm not sure what to do. Clayton, go ahead.
This is Clayton with the city of Tucson. If I recall from the subcommittee discussion correctly, there was an interest to clarify, the outdoor lighting regulations in homeowners associations, and that, neither the city nor the county can enforce private CCNRs in homeowners associations. They could include more restrictive lighting regulations than the city of Tucson, Pima County outdoor lighting code, but those would not be enforceable by the city or the county. And so I believe the intent was to clarify the powers associated with lighting regulations that may be specific to an HOA.
I'm taking that as the point being that we're just explaining that in our meeting and we're not intending to put any words in the code to address that at this time. That's the way you put it. That's the way I'm getting.
Yes.
Any questions? Let's move on. Item number 8. There's an event announcement, a community forum on October 2nd, 2026. That's occurring in Green Valley, and Amy's the one that's putting all that together, and I don't know the details.
Dennis?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dan. I believe that the forum is on October 2nd. I think there's 2 sessions, what you say. 6 to 7:30 and 8 I forget the times, but there's two sessions. She will come up with more, but it's, I believe it talks on outdoor lighting, and then there's astronomy, how would you say the word astronomy type programs and so forth. Both Clayton and I have agreed to attend.
As did I.
I think she just wanted to let people be aware that that will be taking place, and there's more details to come as it gets closer.
Dan, you said that was in the evening of the 2nd?
Yes, Alex.
Okay.
Or Alex.
Thank you.
In the Green Valley area,
Yeah,
but I
it
don't know
is Green
exactly.
Valley. I don't remember exactly either.
Thank you.
Actually, and she's texting me right now, so once I get that, I'll add it.
Okay. One thing, if we do have committee members attending, we need to make sure we don't reach a quorum.
Yeah,
Because you-
that's actually what Amy just said. To be clear, only 3 committee members can attend, or it has to be a full meeting.
I'll probably be there to play golf anyway. They come here.
Okay, let's move on to item 9, future agenda items. I think we need to keep item number 1, 2, 4, 5. We're likely to have item number 6. And item 9 and 10. The other suggestion.
We're gonna add the master lighting plan to one of the,
So we may need to have a presentation on master lighting
Yeah.
plan. So why don't we have a placeholder for that? If that's the time to do it, that could happen then.
We should probably include 7 again, since we didn't even have any idea what that was about.
Okay. So the only one we're really dropping is the meeting format announcement. That was really a one-time announcement. Unless we feel it's necessary to say that. Yeah, should happen. Okay. We're at item 10, adjournment. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.
I just asked a question on the agenda before you said all of the audience at the beginning and then another one at the end. This one did not.
Sure, you can answer.
So that's related to the format. So whether the call to the audience is at the beginning of the meeting or the end of the meeting is open to the committee's pleasure, but we can't have a discussion that on items that aren't agendized. So if the call to the audience stimulates a conversation, the committee technically can't respond due to open meeting law restrictions unless that item is on the agenda. The committee can only discuss items in an open discussion or topics that are agendized.
Right, but at the last couple of meetings, when you made a format change, you had comments from those of us in attendance in 2 locations on the agenda and not 1. That's my question.
Or the possibility to discuss items that are on the agenda with the public, or is that at all?
That's actually what's not allowed. The open discussion between the audience and the committee can only occur if the item is on the agenda. So for example, if an audience asks a question to the committee can't technically engage in a discussion on that question, but they could set a future agenda item to discuss the item.
Bullshit.
So if I had a question on the event community forum, I couldn't ask it, even though it's on the agenda, just because I'm in the public and not a committee member.
I'm sorry, then can you repeat the question?
So say I had a question about the community forum and I raised my hand, that would not be, they would.
That is allowed because it's on the agenda.
Okay, so if we had questions about the discussion, we should have raised our hands a little bit earlier.
Correct.
No, basically, no, you can only do it at the beginning before you've heard the committee discussion.
The committee can only discuss items with the audience on topics that are
I'm
on the
talking
agenda.
about timing. I'm talking about the timing of when that discussion occurs. Because right now, it's at the beginning. It used to be in 2 places. There used to be 2 opportunities for you to hear from us. In this agenda, there is 1 and it is at the beginning. So we don't get the benefit of either making a statement with no response or asking a question on an agendized item after we have heard the committee discussion.
In which case, the committee may recommend that the call to the audience is moved to the end of the meeting. That may facilitate your concern.
Yeah, that would help. I mean, I have a comment on something that is on the agenda that the committee discussed. But there's no place to put it because it was moved. Instead of 2, there's 1 and it's at the beginning. And I wouldn't have made it at the beginning even if I had not been late. So I would not, it was based on the discussion.
But to clarify, Arizona open meeting law does allow the committee to engage discussion with the audience on an item that is on the agenda.
So are you talking about during the whole agenda?
I believe so.
Okay, well, did you clarify that at the beginning of this meeting that we could raise our hand and participate?
No, I thought.
I was trying to comment on the discussion that was on the agenda, I was told I couldn't.
I will be happy to engage the city attorney's office where the recommendations have been derived to seek clarification for future meetings on the topic. We have received recommendation from the city attorney's office to not engage in discussion on items that are not on the agenda. That was the intent from the city's perspective.
But what you did in that is then you did not allow engagement on topics that are on the agenda. That was the result of the change that you made, is that there are those of us here that wanted to make comments on what was on the agenda after hearing the subcommittee report and the discussion, and the way you've done it has precluded that. Which I don't think is consistent with why you have a poll to the audience or have, you could do that and still follow up with meeting swap. But what we've done now is precluded it.
This is Clayton with the city. I will engage the city attorney's office for clarification. I am of the understanding that the public may engage in discussion with the committee on specific agenda items during the discussion.
Okay, well, I don't think any of us were told that.
Or understood.
So we were trying to be respectful and do what we had done at the last 2 months meeting when the city attorney also changed the format that allowed it a general call to the audience on statements that were not on the agenda, like it's done at the city council meetings. Anybody want to say something that's not on the agenda? And there's things where there could be a discussion. So that's what it does.
I also have been waiting 2 hours to comment on something on the agenda. Just a comment, not a discussion.
We'll seek clarification.
So we're not going to be able to speak now.
Unfortunately, the meeting has been adjourned.
This is a departure from what you've done in every meeting in the past. I want to agree with the lady that was just saying that. And I'm sorry about that because, you know, we have a comment to make about something on the agenda. We waited all this time and you adjourned the meeting. Not really friendly. Sorry. Anyone still there?
I think that she's gone.
I don't know. Could someone just say whether or not you're still there? I can't see. I'm on a phone.
Hi there, the meeting is over. We're adjourned. I'm going to cut off the meeting now. Thank you for attending.
You are representative, I get it, but I didn't hear it from you guys saying